right. Thanks so much for being here. One of you that are on my team, if you want to drop a reminder in the team chat, that would be awesome. I have been validated belly today, so I just finished my last patient. But today, for those of you that are watching, we are streaming this live on Facebook as well, just because I think so many people struggle with anxiety. Let me just close this out. Hold on. There we go. All right. Getting a little feedback there. So that's gone. Okay. Thanks so much for your time, everybody. I'm going to move into our chat pretty quickly. So today we are discussing the topic of anxiety and understanding anxiety and depression really, and how they go hand in hand. But I want to first open up to drop a 1 in the comments if you have suffered with anxiety in your lifetime. So whether it's chronic anxiety, you can put chronic, or whether it's situational anxiety, because I do want to explain the differences in the types of anxiety that exist and why we experience anxiety when it's randomized or when it's constant, and why would it be constant. So situational anxiety is very normal. It is not normal to expect to never have anxiety in your lifetime. So let's really get down and understand the definition of anxiety and what does anxiety actually mean, right? So anxiety is a physiological response that happens inside your body due to a stressor or a signal that the body believes it's under threat. So I'm going to just have everybody mute. Thank you so much. So anxiety is nothing more than a physiological signal that gets sent from your adrenal glands out to your nervous system, your neurotransmitters, that there's danger, right? We're in danger. And why would we go into fight or flight? We're not safe. We don't have enough. We are in danger of any sort, whether it's like, I got to run from a tiger, or my boss is mad at me, right? The body doesn't necessarily have the ability to decipher the level of danger, but it's processing that it's in trouble. And whether that trouble is coming from external trauma, or whether it's coming from situational intensity, like a high stress job. A very high demanding, high stress job can trigger anxiety in your body because you're always under the gun, right? It's go, 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 go all the time. Somebody's always breathing down your back. You've got deadlines. You're 5 minutes late and $10 short all the time. All of this stuff can cause anxiety. In our society, we have the largest amount of anxiety of any country in the entire world. Not very surprising if we look at how we live and we look at all of the things. Sorry, I'm trying to keep up with all the people coming in here. And we look at all of the things that happen in our body that can cause anxiety. So first and foremost, anxiety is a physiological response that happens in your body. It is not genetic per se, like we think. I'll explain the difference between genetics and situational and trauma related in a moment. So just hold tight for that. But I want to make sure that we understand what comes along with anxiety. So there's all types. There's trauma-induced anxiety, where somebody's maybe experienced a very significant trauma. For example, let's use a car accident as an example. They've been in a really bad car accident. So for a little while, being in a car could bring them anxiety, or being in a situation that's like, oh my gosh, that was really close. That brought back that memory where I was not safe, where I almost lost my life, right? That is called situational anxiety. And that's a trauma that got stored inside the body. We associated the car with the almost death, and now we're scared of the car, right? Situational trauma-induced anxiety. Now, these sorts of things we have to process out of our system, right? We need time to heal. We need time to process. We need time to grieve. We need time to learn that the car isn't necessarily bad and that just that one bad situation happened. So there is situational anxiety like that. Or you are going through a divorce, right? It's going to bring some anxiety. Of course, it's a big change. There's a lack of safety. You don't know what's going to happen. You went from being in a partnership to single parenting, maybe, right? This is when my anxiety personally was the highest in my entire life. I went through a divorce. I was diagnosed with 3 autoimmune diseases. And I remember like literally just standing in my kitchen, making my kids food and going into a full-on panic attack out of nowhere. My mind was not worried about anything. I was not scared of anything. I was just cutting some fruit and then full-on panic attack. And so I want to explain that this is how anxiety can develop in our body. And when it's not taken care of, it will become randomized. It will become just out of nowhere. You're having a panic attack. You're having a great day on a bike ride. And now you're like bending over, trying to catch your breath, wondering why you're thinking your kids are going to die, right? Drop a 2 in the comments if you've had postpartum anxiety, where you had really dark thoughts, postpartum anxiety, postpartum depression, irrational thinking. My kids are going to die. I remember thinking, I was on maternity leave, and I remember thinking my husband went to the store with the baby so I could sleep. And I was like, oh my gosh, they're going to get in a car accident and die because I took a nap. Like crazy, irrational thinking. And a lot of mamas go through this. Don't even get me started on the whole mama train and how we need to support our mamas more postpartum. But look at all those 2s in the comments. This is sadly common, but not normal. And I want to explain the root cause of why these things happen. But first, I want to make sure that we understand all of the symptomology of anxiety. So anxiety has some serious physiological effects on the body. But the main symptoms of anxiety is quick, rapid heart rate. The onset of a rapid heart rate or rapid breathing or feeling like I'm short of breath. You hear people like, okay, I need to work on my breath. Lightheadedness, dizziness is a big sign of when you develop anxiety, because the body is in a hyperactive state. Your pulse is increased, your blood flow is increased, your body literally believes you need to run from a tiger, and you might just be cutting fruit in your kitchen, right? And so why is this happening comes next, but some of the other signs and signals that might be less obvious that you're dealing with anxiety is abdominal pain. So abdominal discomfort, specifically the sternochyli, the endocrine system right at the top in between the rib cage, having indigestion, a less common symptom. Sorry, I'm trying to keep track of all the people in the waiting room. Indigestion is a less common symptom. Chest pain is a symptom of anxiety. So you might not even have this panicky feeling, but you could be dealing with abdominal discomfort, indigestion, chest pain, a lot of fatigue. Insomnia is a big one. Insomnia and headaches. And so those are kind of the most common symptoms, but not necessarily that you will experience all of them. And then they go deeper from there. Some people have severe psychosis and depression that comes along with it, irrational thinking, right? Hand tremors can even happen with anxiety when it gets really, really bad. And so what happens when you're having an anxiety attack is in the short-term acute phase, your heart rate increases, your blood flow to your brain increases, the physical response of your body is literally in fight or flight. And this can happen anytime. Most often, if it was related to a trauma, like I just explained, you got in a car accident, getting into a car or getting into an almost car accident again can trigger that anxiety. And so anxiety isn't all bad. So that's the first thing I want to talk about. It's not all bad. Like anxiety keeps us alive, right? It's literally a part of our ingrained survival mechanism in our body. It's how we can become insanely strong in a situation to like lift a heavy object off a child. That's the adrenaline rushing through your veins when in danger. When you can run and run and run faster than you've ever run, even if you've never run a mile in your life, that is one of the things that you can do when you have an anxiety happening. So anxiety will go in waves. And anxiety will come in ways of like, okay, this is helpful in this acute situation. My child was in danger. Something fell on them. I was able to lift something crazy heavy off of them thanks to my fight or flight response. So anxiety is all connected to the adrenal glands. This is the main root gland responsible for anxiety. And when I look at anxiety as a whole, it makes me so upset because I have so many people coming into the clinic all the time. They're on anxiety meds, they're on antidepressants, and these are literally paralyzing their own neurotransmitter function and will in turn make them dependent on that drug for life and cause many other neurotransmitter malfunctions from there. So first and foremost, the adrenal glands are responsible for many things in your body. One of the main things that your adrenal glands do is it stimulates all of the anti-inflammatory processes in the body. It also protects the body from antigens. It responds to antigens, which could be parasites, microbes, viruses. It actually triggers that first response. So again, if you struggle with anxiety, you might also know that you get sick frequently. This could be a connection that you might notice. Some of the other things that the adrenals do is they regulate sodium reabsorption, potassium sodium balance. They have a large role in the kidney function. So overall, if you deal with inflammatory conditions, you have an adrenal weakness that can be or will develop into anxiety behaviors or symptoms as you move down that path of depletion. Adrenals also regulate your sugar metabolism. They help you maintain equilibrium. They are the sole gland that is in charge of your fight or flight or your rest and digest response. So say you're sitting down to eat a bowl of food and all of a sudden you trip into an anxiety attack. That is your adrenals, and I'm going to tell you why shortly. It speeds up or slows down your metabolism based on your body's physiological need. It's in charge of your sex hormone production. So if you have no sex drive or low sex drive, you have very low functioning adrenal glands. If you have high sex drive, you have hyper functioning adrenal glands. And it also regulates your thyroid function, which regulates all the metabolic function of your entire body. So basically, everything that your glands, organs, tissues, cells receive for blood, the amount of nourishment, the speed of that gland or organ's function is all connected to your thyroid, and that signal is being connected from your adrenals. So I hope I painted the picture of how important your adrenal glands are, but the root cause of anxiety is adrenal malfunction. It's hands down adrenal malfunction. And so we want to focus on the root cause of a disease or a disorder or a symptom in the body, whatever you want to call it. I call it symptoms. It's literally your body screaming. I say if you listen to your body's whispers, you won't have to hear it scream. But anxiety is a scream. And there's many things that are actually triggering this anxiety outside of just adrenal malfunction. It's too much stress on the body. So we can think of stress like job, we can think of kids, we can think of home life, relationships, but then oftentimes the way that anxiety or depression or stress is managed is through things like stress management, suggestion of going for walks, breathing, maybe doing some meditation or some prayer or whatever. And these are amazing solutions to anxiety behaviors because you are a bundle of neurotransmitter function. And what's happening is a miscommunication and a misfiring or a miswiring of the neurotransmitters. Your body believes it's in danger while you're hanging out with your kid at the park. That's a problem, right? How do we undo this? And how does this happen? Well, not only through repeat trauma. Trauma is one, it's called environmental anxiety. Environmental anxiety is caused by traumatic events. Too much trauma accumulating, the body's like, wow, I'm always in danger. I need to stay here in order to be safe. And so the nervous system learns how to operate in a fight or flight system in order to stay safe in the world, right? Even though we're out of danger. So these are good exercises, and there's a lot of good exercises and practices to help your body kind of unwind that danger feeling. Number 2 is what we call genetic anxiety, or the medical field calls it genetic inherited anxiety. Well, it's genetic. Mom had it, my sister had it, my grandma had it, you know. So if you've been to my calls, you've heard me say 1,000 times from Carrie Tidwell. This is her saying that she shared with me, and I've adopted it because it's so brilliant. But genetics loads the gun and lifestyle pulls the trigger. And that couldn't be more true. So genetically speaking, what would cause anxiety to be genetic would be weak adrenals being passed down genetically. So adrenal glands are weak. Mom has weak adrenals. She passes it down to daughter. Daughter has weak adrenals, grows up on pesticide-filled foods and toxins, and the adrenals get weaker and weaker and weaker. And that's really where I want to go next, is actually getting into understanding first the acute symptoms of adrenals going down, and then the chronic symptoms. Okay. And then I want to get to the causes of that. So acute symptoms of your adrenals being weak are sympathetic nerve stimulation. So that means anxiety, like your body's in a sympathetic nervous system state, AKA fight or flight. You are irritable. You have nervous system, just agitation. Things annoy you, like people chewing, sound, like little, just like, oh, that's irritating. That is your nervous system being on edge. And I want to explain the adrenals. You have the adrenal glands are 2 glands that sit on top of your kidneys. Okay, so visually, right underneath the ribs, a lot of anxiety happens in the belly band, where people feel tension in the belly. But you have 2 adrenals and 2 kidneys. But the adrenals sit on top, and a really healthy adrenal visually should be this nice pink color. It's got lots of fluid, AKA it's hormones in there. But there is an adrenal cortex and there's an adrenal medulla. And the adrenal medulla is in charge of all of your neurotransmitter production and function. That's its whole job. The adrenal cortex is producing the hormones, the cholesterols, the steroids. So very, very different. But adrenals overall, they both play a role. So one is the nervous system in a fight or flight state because of neurotransmitter malfunction, or are we overproducing or underproducing steroids in the body? And so as you can see, the adrenals are what regulates this entire system. So if you're like, well, I don't know if I have anxiety, but I have some of these other symptoms, I would say you have anxiety. So nervousness, irritability, having inflammation, edema, bruising easily. It's actually connected into the adrenal glands as well as a couple other things. Balding, like hair loss, rapid heartbeat, rapid metabolism. Your adrenals are all a communication system. So neurotransmitters are the nervous system of the body, and they travel via the myelin sheath. The myelin sheath is called like a nerve highway. It's a nerve pathway. And these signals have to travel. When there's a hyperactivity of traveling at speed, we start to have too many impulses going to the heart. We have rapid heartbeat, or we have heart palpitations. So we might think we have a heart problem, but we actually have an adrenal problem. And when the body gets dysregulated, right, our blood sugar is too high, or our metabolism is too fast, or our heartbeat is too fast, this can also trigger anxiety, because the body says, whoa, things are not working right. And now I'm anxious because I don't know that I'm safe. So you can go into an anxiety attack based on the internal environment of what's happening in the homeostasis and the harmony of your gland and organ function. Now, when you get into some of the deep symptoms, you start to get into the randomized anxiety, where your body is thinking that you're in fight or flight all the time. So this is somebody, how many people, drop a 3 in the comments if you have, somebody, or maybe you are somebody that talks a million miles an hour, can never sit down, super hyper organized, like I have tons of energy and That is not just their personality, you guys. That is hyperactive adrenal function. So when we get into these phases of activity, we always go hyper before we go hypo. So the body always goes on an incline before it goes on the decline, because it's trying to auto-correct this fatigue that's happening in the body. Like, oh my gosh, I'm so tired. My adrenals are so tired. And so it'll start to produce more of its juice to like give it a kick, right? Okay, if I just go a little faster, I'll get over this hill. So the body starts to overproduce hormones and overproduce steroids. And this creates that like, wow, I feel amazing. I'm losing weight. I'm like doing great. I feel amazing. I got a 333 there. Christina really liked that. And then we go on the hypo, we go on the crash, the downslide. And the downslide happens due to fatigue. So these adrenals, think of these like nice pink glands filled with healthy hormones and steroids, and they surge them out when they need to. And when we go into hyperactivity, they're oversurging. And then one day they oversurge to where their adrenals are like dried walnuts. And this is hypofunction, like very low functioning adrenal glands. Now, they both cause anxiety. And this is what's tricky. The hyperactive is like, we gotta go, we're not safe. That causes anxiety. And then the hypofunction, when you have low functioning adrenal glands, it actually your body requires minerals to burn through minerals significantly faster. So your nervous system runs off of minerals and fatty acids. So literally, just from a nutritional standpoint, if you are not getting enough minerals and you are not getting enough micronutrients or essential fatty acids, like whole food fatty acids, like avocado, hemp seed, those sorts of things, maybe some black seed oil here and there, those really healthy fats for the nervous system. And then your micronutrients and your minerals, like minerals are so important, like zinc and D and A and C and E and all those, these actually help regulate the nervous system function. That's the nervous system's food. It's how it works. So when the nervous system runs out of food, you have a panic attack. Because the nervous system's like, oh my gosh, we don't have what we need. We don't have what we need. And all of a sudden your heart is thudding, you have anxiety, and it's because you're in depletion. It's dietary related. So you could say, I haven't had any crazy traumas in my life and I have anxiety. Dietary related, low functioning adrenal glands. Now there's a ton of other things that actually cause nervous system weakness and adrenal weakness, and that's neurotoxicity. Neurotoxicity is one of the main causes of adrenal fatigue, and we have seen adrenal anxiety skyrocket. We have over 40 million Americans that report anxiety. That's an insane amount of people, and most people aren't talking about it, but they're dealing with it. So I would suggest that the numbers at least double. Neurotoxicity happens from consumption of herbicides, pesticides, pharmaceutical drugs, and heavy metal toxins. And this is how we get nervous system disruption or dysregulation. Think of electricity. You don't plug things into water, right? With water, you're going to create an electric shock. When you bring heavy metals into the body, it dysregulates the nervous system. When you bring in pesticides into the body is responding to this because it's an antigen in its eyes. The body, remember, the adrenal gland's job is to attack antigens and to trigger a fight or flight response. If we have an intruder like a pesticide, an herbicide, a parasite, right? This is going to trigger a nervous system response of fight or flight. So the more toxicity we bring into our body, the more anxiety we create in our body. So eating non-organic foods, sadly enough, we are one of the only countries in the world that has to pay extra for food that doesn't have pesticides. But we get cheaper food if it has pesticides all over it. So pesticides like glyphosate are one of the most highly neurotoxic chemicals that interrupt the neurotransmitter function and cause the body to be in fight or flight. This call needs to be like an hour because I have so much to talk about. But I can, so I'll go as quickly as I can here. The other thing outside of neurotoxicity, so anytime we have medical intervention, those have heavy metals in them. I want to make a note first and foremost, I'm not anti-Western medicine. I'm pro-preventative care. And I think in acute situations, Western medicine keeps a lot of people alive and it's very beneficial. So here we like to educate on if you don't want to be on anxiety meds the rest of your life, because what's happening is it is now regulating your neurotransmitter function. And you don't know how to act or react in situations anymore because you're being regulated by a pharmaceutical drug. And so you lose your ability to feel joy. Like when you get on antidepressants and anti-anxiety meds, you're literally just like flat. Like there's not a whole lot because everything's being run by another puppeteer, right? So the other thing that happens with depression meds, anxiety and depression is actually related to a parathyroid weakness and a calcium depletion in the body, and it imbalances your minerals and causes depression in the brain. But what's happening is it bounces these hormones in between the brain receptors for longer. So it bounces dopamine in between the brain receptors for longer, which is actually a problem because about 80% of your hormones are made in your gut. 80% of your hormones are made in your gut, and then they send those signals to the brain, and then the brain is able to process, oh, I need more dopamine, I need less, I need more of this, I need less. Well, when you're bouncing that dopamine in between the receptors for longer, your gut is not getting the signal to make more. So I would say if you take it, you won't make it. So a lot of these drugs, although in acute situations can be very helpful, long-term will cause the paralyzation of the function of your own production of neurotransmitters as well as hormones. So I'm here to just educate and help you understand what are the biggest triggers. What are the biggest triggers of anxiety in food? So one, eating chemical pesticide foods. That's number one. Two, pharmaceutical drugs or high levels of medical intervention. We're going to call it intervention, or they call preventions to long-term disease, or like this recent situation we're in. I got to watch my words so I don't get taken off YouTube. This recent situation we were in, the solution to that recent situation has caused a crazy amount of anxiety. So many people are struggling with anxiety now. It's because so many heavy metals came into the system and it caused neurodysfunction. Neurotoxicity is what's happening. Ringing in the ears, anxiety, heart palpitations. I don't know, I don't feel good. I'm not grounded. My GI is not working. All of these things is neurotoxicity. So that's number one, is neurotoxicity. Eat organic. Number two is depletion of minerals and nutrients. So not getting enough of what you need, and that sadly is related to our poor soil health because less than 1% of the Earth's soil is deemed nutrient dense, and that will cause depletion. And then the nervous system's like, I don't have what I need. I can't perform my functions. And now you're in fight or flight as it's searching for what it needs all the time. Number three is the foods you eat. And actually, I think this should be number one, but just in order of like some of the highest harms are neurotoxins. Number three is the foods you eat. So the foods you eat, not only if they're not organic, but you can eat specific foods that will trigger anxiety. Number one is pasta, starch, rice, sugar, all your processed carbohydrates. Your body actually requires excess cortisol to be produced every single time you come to the table with a bowl of rice or a bowl of pasta, because cortisol what breaks down the extra complex carbohydrates and refined sugars. So this is silly, but you'll be like, I'm eating a bowl of rice and now I am in an anxiety attack. Or it's also part of why starch and pasta and like sugars are so addictive, because they actually create a steroid response in the body. So even though rice has no flavor, we can just keep eating. And that is because you're triggering your body into this fight or flight state, which gives you this like temporary high. So starches, grains, and pastas and refined sugars are the food number one that causes it. And number two is meat, actually. Every single time you eat an animal product, you're taking on the adrenaline from the gland of the animal, norepinephrine and epinephrine. And the problem with that is that our body needs to be producing those hormones for proper nervous system function, proper neurotransmitter function. So every time we consume the animal's energy, we actually suppress our own function. And then we take on, and not to mention let's talk about the energetics around eating dead animal tissue, and like the fact that when they are killed, they have anxiety before they die. We are embracing that frequency, right? And everything is frequency. There's a frequency to anxiety. There's a frequency to your foods that you're eating. And so there's so many different approaches, but number one is eliminate those triggering foods like alcohol, caffeine, refined sugars, and animal proteins. And I go as far to say as dairy is one of the worst foods you can eat for your lymph system. But those foods will trigger this fight or flight response. Coffee skyrockets your steroid hormones and then crashes you down into the dumpster. So people have coffee and they get anxiety and they get shaky and their body's like, oh, I'm in fight or flight. But no, I just drank a cup of coffee. That's all that happened. So understanding what role we have in anxiety, we can create our anxiety just through our nutrition, and we can reverse our anxiety just through our nutrition. Those are the most powerful things to know. I have so much more to share on this. So drop a 4 in the comments if you want part 2 to come next, because I can go I want to go into the whole somatic emotional process of anxiety. Okay, so we're going to do a part 2 to anxiety. You've got some foundational pillars. Start taking out the triggers. Start shaking out the triggers and replace those triggers with high micronutrient dense superfoods or organic fruits, berries, and melons. Your neurotransmitter function will be the highest with organic plants because they have the highest vibration. They have the highest electromagnetic potential. We are an electric body. Literally, our nervous system is frequencies of electromagnetivity. It's a big word to say. And so we are receiving impulses all the time. We're always receiving an impulse from our food. It's either a high impulse or a low impulse or something that's taking or something that's giving. And so we want to focus on when you take all the stimulants away, when you take all the stimulants out of your diet, you will actually feel exhausted. And you're like, see, meat was good for me. I'm exhausted. No, that's because that's the actual underlying health of your adrenal gland when you took away all your I call it go-go juice, right? Coffee, stimulants, meats, all of that. So we really have to nourish the adrenal glands. So start with your diet, start with adding high vibrational foods. Whoever brought you to this call is deeply connected with our community, meaning they're part of our regenerative health coach community. And they can get you supported with the right supports. Like for anxiety specifically, we work with 100% organic and regeneratively grown, super micronutrient rich superfoods and filled with all of your essential electrolytes and minerals. So I would reach out to them. They will have a good protocol for you. And next week we're traveling. Week after next will be anxiety part 2. We'll get into the other side of anxiety, which is triggered by parasites and low frequency in your cells. Like literally just the frequency in your cells being too low can cause anxiety. So those are the things that we'll get into next. But when in doubt, always clean your body out. When in doubt, clean it out, right? Detox, go through a detox, get rid of antigens, pathogens, parasites, microbes that are inundating your body, and get them out, because when your body detects an antigen, it goes into fight or flight. Your body's like, oh, I got an intruder alert. There's someone in my house, right? There's someone in my house that doesn't belong there. So simply have a pathogen or a parasite overload can cause this very increased uptick in anxiety. So our programs here are designed to help you get back to homeostasis, to get the pathogens, the antigens, the microbes out that don't belong in a very gentle and nourishing way. And then also to support your adrenals with adaptogenic herbs. Adaptogens mean ability to adapt to stress, to reduce inflammation, to nourish, to repair. So my top suggestions, if you are here on this call and you're like, oh my gosh, I have all those things, I would do one of our 30-day programs, reach out to your mentor. I would do one of our 30-day transformations, and I would add on the ionic elements and the Be Energetic. That's where I would start. And that's an adrenal support. So I'm going to close out this portion of the call right now. I have a patient at 1 o'clock. So I can't go over. So I just need to transition this call right now into Q&A. So I'm gonna pause the record here. Oh, it doesn't look like I even recorded at all. Okay, well, it's live on Facebook. So I'm going to stop my live stream and then start recording. So thank you so much for those of you that were